Hello, this is a part of Fly With Spyce Identity Crisis series, a conversation about finding clarity in a world full of expectations. Can you answer an honest question for me? Have you ever looked at your life and quietly thought, how did I become this version of myself? Not because your life is terrible, not because everything is falling apart, but because somewhere deep inside, something feels misaligned. You're functioning quite well, you're working, you're studying, you're posting, you're laughing with friends. Life seems pretty normal around you. But there's a quiet voice in your mind whispering, this does not fully feel like me. And here's the interesting thing. Millions of teenagers, young adults, and even grown adults are living through a silent identity crisis without even realizing it. So today on Fly With Spyce, we're going to talk about something that is very real. How people slowly lose themselves and why rediscovering who you truly are might be one of the most important journey of your life. Welcome to Fly With Spyce, a space where we'll talk honestly about life, growth, identity, purpose, and the sometimes confusing journey of becoming who we're meant to be. Because the truth is, the world spends a lot of time telling us who we should become, but very little time helping us understand who we really should be. And if we're not careful, we can spend years building a life that looks impressive, but doesn't feel authentic. Let's look at how our identity slowly slips away. Here is something that we sometimes don't realize. Identity crises rarely happen suddenly. They happen gradually. For teenagers, it often begins with the desire to belong. You enter school environments where fitting in suddenly feels very important. So you begin to observe. You notice who gets accepted, who gets the attention, who gets the applause, and even the approval. And without even realizing it, you begin adjusting parts of yourself. Maybe you hide certain interests. Maybe you change how you speak or how you walk. Maybe you silence opinions that might make you stand out amongst the lots. Not because you're fake, but because you're trying to survive socially. And those small adjustments begin shaping who you are. This happens to at least 7 out of 10 people. The need to be accepted, the need to fit in, the need to belong. It makes you change yourself and you begin to act in ways and manner that does not reflect who you really are. And there's a certain level of discomfort that comes with this territory. It is exhausting mentally, it is draining physically, and is slowly stealing up who you are. Sometimes we can't keep up. Then the pressure to become successful comes up. As a young adult, the pressure begins to mount. Now the changes come. It's no longer about fitting in. It's about becoming successful. You see people online traveling, launching businesses, getting married, settling down and having kids, buying new houses, and living the life of their dreams. And suddenly your life starts feeling like a race. You begin to ask yourself very depressing questions. Am I behind? Am I doing enough or not? Am I successful enough? Is there more I need to do or more I can do to measure up? And before you realize it, You begin to design your life around what looks impressive instead of what feels meaningful. And slowly you begin to lose your real identity. You begin to lose who you are. And you stop asking yourself the most important questions. What kind of life actually feels true to me? We're going to examine the exhaustion of living a performance life, because a lot of us are living a very performative life. One of the hardest things about losing yourself is how exhausting it becomes putting up this performance. Because performing a life requires constant efforts. You're always adjusting, always monitoring how you're perceived by people, always wondering if you're doing enough to maintain the image you started. And that can become mentally and emotionally draining. You might look successful on the outside, but internally, you feel very disconnected. The quiet feeling of disconnection is often the soul telling you you've been living outwardly, but not inwardly. And an outward performance drains the inward you. That is where depression sets in. That is where the stress, the fatigue, and the tension that you can't shake off seeps in. The moment of realization. At some point in our lives, many people experience a moment of clarity. It might happen during a quiet evening, a life transition, a disappointment, or maybe betrayal, or even a success that strangely feels empty. And suddenly you begin to realize something important, that you've been so focused on becoming what everyone expects that you never actually ask who you want to be. That realization can feel very uncomfortable, but it is the beginning of an awakening. Imagine dreaming, desiring to be a top-notch fashion designer. It's been your lifelong dream. Is what you're fluid or passionate about. It is what you find yourself acing at. And expectations, societal, family, culture, social media expectation forces you to become a structural engineer, something you're not passionate about. You go at it, but you never really get the satisfaction you desire. Every day you show up at work, it's exhausting, it's draining, you're keeping up appearances, and the desire to keep on just begins to dwindle. Then you begin to realize that this wasn't the plan you had for yourself initially. This doesn't water a part of you that makes you feel whole. Then you begin to examine yourself and look inwards, because awareness always comes before the transformation we see. Rediscovering who you really are. The journey back to yourself starts with the first few steps. The first step being self-awareness. Take time to understand your values, what truly matters to you, not what the society celebrates, not what the people praise, but what genuinely resonates with your heart. Second step, self-acceptance. You don't need to be a copy of anyone else. Your uniqueness is not a flaw. God created and designed you intentionally. You are special to Him and you're well made. It's part of your design to fulfill a purpose and to process, to grow, and to become who you were designed to be. There's a powerful reminder from Psalms 139, verse 14, which reminds us that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. That means that your identity carries intention. God was intentional about you. You are not a mistake. If you have been feeling lost lately, if you felt like life has turned into a performance, you are not alone. Many people are quietly navigating the same confusion as you. But here is the good news. Losing yourself does not mean that you're broken. It often means you are ready to rediscover something deeper. Thank you for spending this moment with me on Fly With Spyce. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who might also be navigating their own journey of self-discovery. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply remind each other that it's okay to become who we truly are. And remember, the world does not need another imitation. It just needs the real you. Let me leave this with you. If you have ever felt lost or disconnected from who you are, stay with me through this series. The next two conversations may help you see life in a completely different way. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.